Hey everybody, welcome to a new edition of the award-winning Talking About Cars, where everybody has a car story. From celebrities to car personalities to just people who bring their cars to cruise nights and car shows. I'm Randy Kerdoon, and this week we'll be joined by Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim pitcher and huge car guy CJ Wilson. Now Wilson races cars in his free time, and as often mentioned, he aims to be a professional racer after his baseball career ends. CJ has a collection of Porsches as well as a custom-painted McLaren F1. So let's start talking about cars. CJ Wilson in a Bentley. I don't know, do you get a chance to drive these very often?
I've got some miles in the Bentleys. I like them a lot, actually. They're really, really comfortable cars, or for doing what we're doing right now, which is chilling.
It's kicking back, kind of like and Shirley's living room. And the carpet.
This is the room you're not allowed to go in. This is the room that usually has the plastic on the furniture.
Exactly.
It's a very nice room. I mean, I don't know what kind of wood this is, but it's brilliant, And I guess the deal is that they take all of the wood from the same tree. So it's like you cut down an entire tree for the wood in the Bentley.
Really?
Yeah, which is not quite environmentally sensitive, but I guess they only make a couple thousand of these a year, so no big deal.
Oh, exactly. How many trees could you lose in a year?
Right.
But this is so nice and so cool. And the fact that, the cars that you really like, and I know you tend to go towards sports cars and racing versions of vehicles. Let's go back to the start. I always have fun trying to find out where people got their start in cars. What's your first car memory, the ones your folks had maybe?
I mean, this sounds terrible, but my mom getting in accidents, my mom was a bad driver, probably still is a bad driver, and my dad was a very good driver, a very responsible driver. My mom was really wild. Like, she had a
How wild?
She had a Maserati back, like a Quattroporte back in the 80s, and I mean those things are like tin cans. They're buckets. They're awful. But she was, she had a friend that was trying to convince her to put nitrous in it and stuff. She was nuts. My dad had he always had kind of different cars. He had a 450 SEL Mercedes that was like super, super, super clean. I mean, it wasn't worth anything, but it was amazingly clean. He had an old El Camino. At one point he had a conversion van that had like the bed in the back and all that stuff, and that's when we'd go on road trips, that's what we'd take. So, like an eclectic mix. No, not like, we didn't have really nice cars, I would say, but my dad knew that I loved cars and he really liked cars, so we would actually go to the different dealerships. Yeah. We'd drive around and look at them and kind of, kick the tires and all that stuff.
I want to go back to your mom for a second, because as you were talking about that, I suddenly had this vision of, like, every time she got to a red light, she was going to, like, burn off the starting gate or something like that?
In the Maserati, yeah. I mean, I remember we were driving down Pacific Coast Highway one time, and she was singing like some crappy 80s music and like ripping, and I'm like probably 8 or 9 years old. I'm in the front seat and I'm like, Mom, there's a red light, ah! And I like grabbed the steering wheel because I knew she wasn't paying attention. She was so in the song that she missed everything. But I realized distracted driving is dangerous driving, at a young age. So that's why for me, I tend to go for radio delete in a lot of my sports cars.
Really?
As an option, yeah. I think 3 out of the last 4 Porsches I've bought were radio delete because I'm just a Luddite, and that's what I like.
So basically your mother was, instead of doing the do what I tell you, she was doing it by example, teaching you the benefits of distracted driving.
Yeah, she was basically like, don't do as I do. You know what I mean? And then my dad was actually very responsible. He's a good driver. He, doesn't get in accidents, doesn't get speeding tickets. He's very cautious. But at the same time, he worked on a pit crew for a race team. So that's what got me into it. I used to go to races for sprint cars and midgets and stuff like that, when I was a little kid. So I was around speed and around racing, and then, I always wanted to do it. But my first car was exactly the opposite of a race car. It was a 1983 240D Mercedes with a stick shift. It was a 4-speed, had 60 horsepower. The car weighed 5,000 pounds. It was the slowest turd ever. And it was like I would have to be in second gear to get up a hill. I mean, it had no power at all.
So why that car?
I didn't have a choice. This is like, you're in high school, you're on a budget.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't have money raining out of the sky. I got to buy something for $2,000 or $3,000.
So was this your choice, or was it the folks' choice?
Dad's choice. Dad's choice because he thought it was safe. And then eventually I had a really good run of good report cards, good grades, and my mom decided that it was time to get me another car. So she got me a Volvo. So my first really car that I didn't let anybody else drive was a Volvo.
Now, a nice Volvo or the typical
it was
staid
at this
Volvo?
time it was like probably, it was like maybe 6 years old. So it was decent.
Yeah.
It was a 940 turbo. It was midnight blue.
Okay.
And it had midnight blue interior.
Well, that's nice.
Fabric, and then midnight blue plastic. I mean, it was all midnight blue. Like, if you had a phobia of water or sharks or anything like that, this was not the car, because it was like you're driving the ocean. You know, it's the Swedish Ocean. That's what it was.
That's great. Now, so is that the car you took to the prom?
No, I didn't have a car in high school. That was freshman year of college that I had that one. So, yeah, prom. I took somebody else's car. I was a passenger.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Not that there's anything wrong with being a passenger.
No. It's just, you know, I didn't have access to cars enough when I was a kid in high school. My next door neighbor was older, had a car, so we just went everywhere together. And I just saved up, you know, modest means. So I couldn't just really throw down on stuff. I rode my bike until I was like 17, 18. You know what I mean?
Wow, that's true. When you grew up in Southern California.
Yeah. Huntington Beach.
Surfer like.
Yep.
Okay, so that lifestyle, that whole thing, you really...
Yeah, get on your beach cruiser, go to the beach, take your bodyboard, take your surfboard, whatever. Go to Huntington. I would always, you know, go bodyboard and surf in Huntington. I cracked one of my ribs at the wedge, trying to be a hero when I was way over my skis in that regard, skill-wise. But yeah, I grew up around the water, and then I really kind of re-engaged with cars through video games. That's really where I got back into it and started getting more knowledge, because I was always reading the car magazines and stuff like that.
Sure.
But you know, you can't really afford to drive anything when you're a kid, but they're all on PlayStation. So I had Gran Turismo, and then I got Forza, and then I started really driving and taking a technical approach to my driving.
You may be the first person ever on Talking About Cars that got interested in cars through video games.
Well, interested in terms of like knowing which kind of cars I was really going to gravitate towards. You know, I think I'd always really liked cars, but at the same time, I didn't know. There's so many choices. You know, you have to narrow it down. You can only buy so many things at a time, and for me, it was like 0.5. I could buy 0.5 of what I wanted, so I really had to kind of, you know, aim that and focus on that. And eventually, through baseball, you know, I ended up getting a really nice signing bonus when I left college and shopped for about 14 months, and then I found a really nice Porsche that I got for myself.
That's cool. Now, when you went to the Rangers, did you have cars in bulk? Did you have more than one Porsche, or did you?
Yeah. So like my first Porsche I kept for probably 4 years. And then I had when I was in the minor leagues, I had a Volvo. I had the second Volvo, because my first Volvo got crashed into. I was at my girlfriend's place. I came out the next morning. The car was an accordion. It was smashed.
Oh, God.
And it was like 100 feet to the right of where I parked it. I
hate it when that happens.
I totally did not do that. It was like that scene in Beverly Hills Cop when he's like, yo, make sure you park this somewhere nice, because all this happened last time I was here. You know, that's what happened.
Wow.
And so then I got an 850 turbo, which was a little bit of an upgrade. It had leather. It was a little bit faster, a little more modern. And then I had that car all the way until I was probably 26 or something like that. So those are my two cars. I had the Porsche. I had a 993 C2S, was a 97. That I got off a guy in Santa Margarita. I had that car, and I had the red. So I had two red cars. I had the red Porsche and the red Volvo. I had my Volvo in the minor leagues one summer. The air conditioning ran out, and they were they had promoted me from the Florida State League to the Texas League.
Right.
But I had to drive in the middle of summer through the south with no AC, with leather seats. I was like this, like leaning out the window, like trying to get airflow. You know what I mean? It was terrible. It was funny.
And for the Rangers, I mean, what was that? What was the AAA at the time? Because they've changed since, I believe. Yeah,
well, I skipped AAA. I went to AA.
Okay.
And so in 2005, that's when I made it to the major league. So I was 24 and a half years old. I actually, at the time, I was driving another diesel Mercedes, because I told myself that I wasn't going to drive my Porsche anymore until I made it to the majors. So I was so upset at myself for getting injured that I put my Porsche in storage for about a year, because I bought it when I was in the minors, because I flew through the minors, and I was like, oh, I'm going to make the big leagues. It's going to be so great. And I went out and bought the car, and then I had it for, you know, maybe 6 or 7 months, and then I got hurt. And then I was like, maybe I don't deserve this because I'm in the minors. So I put it away. I drove a diesel Mercedes coupe, a 300 CD. And that was kind of my go-around car. And then I had actually given my Volvo to my mom. So when I got called up to the majors, I rolled in a 1984 diesel coupe, you know, and everyone was like, who is this kid? Like, what is his deal, you know? Because everyone else has had trucks. They had H2s, they had Tahoes, they had big Escalades, stuff like that. So here I am in the diesel Mercedes. I mean,
I'm noticing a definitive lack of American cars. Do you just not like American marques, or what?
No, it's just that, you know, I felt like at the time, if I could get a car that that was gonna be economical and bulletproof. Like, I felt that the diesel Mercedes at the time, it was a couple $1,000s. It was not an expensive car, but it had 200,000 miles on it, ran like a clock. It was amazing. So I just really like the style of a lot of those cars. I've always liked, you know, Stingrays and some of the 60s Corvettes. I really like those cars a lot, but that's not practical to have when it's your only car. You know what I mean? You can't depend on a 50-year-old car to get you from place to place. At least I couldn't. And so I really didn't get an American car until I got a Ford F250 diesel to use basically as like a get-around car in Texas and also as a tow truck. So I towed for my race car. So I towed like a race car behind it. Sure. And I love that car. I miss it. It was the 7.3 liter. It was a really good diesel. I like that a lot. It got great gas mileage. I put 50 or 60,000 miles on it. I got it used. I mean, it already had like almost 100,000 miles on it when I got it, and it just ran like a clock. It was great.
When did the racing bug bite you?
Oh man, I started racing a little bit when I was a kid. I did go-karts, and then the harsh reality of budget stopped us, I guess, from going too far. So then I was like, you know what, let me do something a little more realistic with my life. I'll just play baseball. Maybe that'll be okay. So I didn't really do any kind of racing at all. Like I said, I just did the video game stuff, and then once I was about 26 or 27, I had gotten myself in with some guys that were, I guess, doing track days all the time. And so I went to a track day, and I was like, wait a second, you can just drive your car on the track? Like, no rules? And they're like, well, yeah, you're now like allowed to hit people and stuff. I mean, what are you talking about, no rules? But I was like, well, I can just sign up here, pay $80 or $100, and then I'm in? And they're like, yeah, you're in. And I'm like, oh, this is the best thing ever. So that's kind of how it really started. And then from there, I realized, you know, I need an instructor. And then I was like, well, forget this. I'm just going to go to racing school. Okay. So I did the Skip Barber Racing School. Okay. I did the Jim Russell Racing School. I did Bondurant. I did Dirtfish Rally Car School up in Seattle. So I've driven kind of all the different disciplines: formula cars, sports cars, rally cars. I've done everything besides trucks, pretty much. Everything. So you've done those four. I don't think we've ever had a chance to ask this question. So you've been with the experience of the four. Which one really did you like better? The top two, I would say, I like the rally car school. I like Dirtfish. I thought was fantastic because you're driving in the gravel, in the mud, in the rain, in the snow, whatever's happening, you're in it and you're going hard. So it teaches you how to make the car handle, and I think that type of car control, it benefits anybody. Like anybody that's going to think, oh, what school should I do? Should do one that emphasizes just general car control. As a skill, if you can only have one skill, you have great car control, you can hop in anything and drive it. You know what I mean? Like you can save a spin, you can save, and you know, you can figure out if the road's icy, you can figure out how to steer around that. And then from the instruction quality standpoint, I would say the Jim Russell School was unbelievable because the cars that we drove were Formula 3 cars. Carbon chassis, sequential transmission, downforce, amazing brakes. It was the most spectacular driving experience of my life. And actually, I got along so well with one of the coaches that I eventually hired him to drive for my race team. Really? Yeah. So I'd say, you know, that was a really good connection. Very good. Very good. So you've had this opportunity to learn racing, so you eventually got involved in your own race team. Yep. Go back to the first time you went to one of the race schools. Which first one was? First one was Skip Barber. Okay, so you get behind the wheel at Skip Barber School. Talk about what that first day of experience was like. Well, it's kind of funny because I'd been doing track days for about a year and a half, and when I first started doing track days, I was in a modified Porsche with like 600 horsepower. It was preposterous. It was too fast. I mean, a novice in a 600 horsepower car, like forget it, spinning off the track, you know, like sliding across the grass. I mean, I was having a great time, but a lot of people thought I was a liability. So then I got a more responsible car. I didn't sell it, but I got a GT3 Porsche, and that one only had 415 horsepower. Only. So I was like, oh, this is so easy to drive. But then I did the Miata Racing School, and then it was the same thing where, you know, I felt like, wow, this car is really approachable. So now it's only about it's all about the competition. It's all about the skill development, because I'm not really like hanging on for dear life in the Miata, you know what I mean? But that being said, I realized that you didn't have to be in a $200,000 car or $100,000 car to have fun. You could be in a smaller race car, and then if you're surrounded by other small race cars, it's a race. And if you're racing, you're having a good time. So I was probably the most aggressive driver and the most experienced driver in the class. So when we did like our little practice races and stuff like that, I smashed everybody. But then
smashed everybody. Okay.
Yeah. And then when I went to, then I was like, okay, that's the Miata school. I need to do Formula Car school. So then I did the Formula Car school, and then it was like a whole nother level for me. You know, once I started driving the Formula cars, I realized there's a purity inherent to Formula cars that you don't get in any other sports car, street car, or anything like that. And that's what I just focused on that, and that's what I raced for a couple of years.
You know, you pitch for the Rangers, pitch for the Angels. Do these guys throw in things in your contract about, well, you know, you probably shouldn't be driving in these situations?
Oh yeah, no, there's nothing in there says that you're allowed to do it. In fact, it says that you're not supposed to do it. It also says that if you get hurt and you miss time on the field from doing it, that you're fired. So that's bad, because our contracts were always guaranteed as baseball players. So with that was a non-guarantee at that point, basically. So I knew that I had to be somewhat responsible behind the wheel. I couldn't just be cavalier and just smash into people and stuff like that. So I had to really be safe approach to it. I learned how to build speed and to be patient, so that I wasn't like going out there the first time at a track trying to break the lap record. I was like, okay, let me really learn this, let me figure this out, and take my time.
Anybody from the ball clubs ever say anything to you about that? Like,
yeah, of course. Like John Daniels, who's the GM of the Rangers, we went to lunch one time, and he was like, so tell me about this racing stuff. Do you actually, like, what happens? I'm like, well, you know, I'm like driving a car, and there's like 30 other cars, and we're all trying to win. And he goes, but there's 30 other cars? I'm like, well, sometimes there's like 15, sometimes there's like 40, you know, just whatever. And he thought it was the funniest thing, because I was so into it, you know, and he was like, you know, this is really dangerous, isn't it? And I'm like, well, you know, I drive a car, it's got a roll cage, you know, all this stuff. But it really, nobody cared at all when I was a relief pitcher. When I was a reliever, no one cared. I was totally expendable. They were like, oh, we'll just get a new one of those. We'll just pick one up at the store. But when I was a starting pitcher, when I transitioned into that's when they were kind of like, whoa, hang on a second. That's my salary went up. I was all of a sudden making like a couple $1 million a year. And they're like, they saw me as an investment all of a sudden. I was like, oh, they care. That's cool. I'm not just a piece of fruit anymore that's going to dry up and just go away. Because that's really how you feel a lot of times as an athlete, is you feel like you're just kind of an expendable, commodity. So, that's just kind of the way it goes. But yeah, that's when they started kind of getting in my case. But at that point, I had sort of advanced to a level of driving where I had graduated from making stupid mistakes. And, all the dumb stuff that a lot of people do. It happens in the first 10 or 15 races. That being said, I still remember I was at Road Atlanta racing in the Skip Barber Formula Car Series, and I saw a guy crash right in front of me, and his car flipped. His Formula car flipped. Yeah. So it was like wheels flying all over the place, and I was like, well, all right, here's how it goes. You know what I mean? And I just remember that, I had certain moments where I was like, God, this is so stupid. I should put this off for a couple more years. I really should. This is really stupid. But I'm like, you know what I mean? Going through the corner. So, you had moments like that. I mean, I crashed a car at Laguna Seca. I crashed a couple cars in races and stuff like that. But,
so you said basically that you've crashed in some of the coolest racetracks everywhere. Is there any place? So, I mean, is it like a lot
I've
of guys?
only crashed twice. I mean, I've only crashed it I've crashed 3 times on the racetrack. Once was at Laguna Seca, 100% my fault. Another time at Laguna Seca, somebody wiped me out on the first lap. That was totally his fault. And he was like 17 at the time, and his mom came up to me, and it's like, I'm so sorry. I'm like, you need to teach your son how to drive. He's an effing liability out there. I was getting on her case and everything like that. And then, I had a crash at VIR in Virginia during a 13-hour race. So it was really rainy. It was kind of slick, and I went off the track a little bit, and I got stuck. I had a Miata, so it's like $400 worth of damage. It wasn't really a big deal. But the crash I had at Laguna with the first one was a pretty big one. It was kind of a bummer. But and then I had a brake failure at Infineon or Sonoma, whatever it's called. Turn 1 up the hill. going into turn 2, I couldn't go to turn 2 because I lost the brakes and I went straight into the tire barrier at 100.
Oh wow! What's that like?
You know, if you're wearing the Hans device and you're strapped in there tight with all the belts and everything, it's not too bad. I've been lucky I haven't flipped a car, or caught a car on fire, or anything like that. You know.
Yeah.
So hey, never say never though.
Yeah. And I have a funny feeling.
Knock on wood. Knock on some of this really nice Bentley
wood. Nice Bentley wood, which came from one tree. I understand.
One tree. Yeah, that's why it's matched. That's why it looks so nice.
That's very nice. What is in your garage right now?
In my garage at my house, I have a 2016 GT3 RS Porsche. I have a 1995 993 GT2, which is a super rare car. There's only like probably 20 of those in the country, maybe less. That's probably my nicest car.
How did you get your hands on that?
I found it in Japan. So, you know, one of the things I do is I'm a car dealer. You know, it's like if you like cooking, then you become a chef. If you like cars, you become a salesperson. So I started my own car dealership business a couple of years ago. Now I've got 11 dealerships. Kind of worked my way up into that. And,
yeah, you have a McLaren hat. Is that what you sell mostly?
My store, yeah,
okay.
McLaren Scottsdale. I sell a lot of exotic cars, but I started with Mazda. So I started racing with Mazda. Won a couple races, you know, had some teams that won some championships with the race team in the Mazdas, so I'm very loyal to them. So I have 4 Mazda dealerships. I've got a McLaren dealership, BMW bikes, KTM bikes, Suzuki, Husqvarna, Zero electric bikes.
Right.
And then I'm in the middle of an acquisition right now where I'm buying a Porsche and an Audi store.
Anything in Southern California?
Yeah, I have 3 stores in Southern California. I've got a store in Ventura, motorcycles in Marietta. So I have BMW and KTM out there. And then I'm buying a store in Northern California right now.
There's a lot of people that talk about these electric bikes and they don't think they have any oomph to them.
No, they totally have oomph. They have a lot of torque, so off the line they're very fast. They might not have top end though, because I think at the end of the day, they need like multiple gears in the transmission in order to keep accelerating.
Right.
But the instant torque from an electric bike is hilarious. Like KTM makes an electric dirt bike called the Freeride, and I rode that recently because I was just like, I want to see what this is all about. You know, let me check it out. So I'm riding in the dirt and it's like, you know, and you really have to have, you know, yourself put together because the dirt bike rides like a 450 off the line, and it's got a lot of torque. The street bikes, like the Zero bikes, you know, I think a lot of people use them for commuting in the city because they feel like it's super practical and they just get from place to place. But at the same time, you know, I think they keep evolving the electric bike to the point that, you know, they're starting to become super fun. And, you know, because it doesn't have an engine, doesn't have moving parts, you know, they can really put the battery and mess with it and put it wherever they want to kind of distribute the weight.
How long would a battery last, though? I mean, can you actually take it up into the hills? I mean,
yeah.
Where are you going to? There's no charging stations in the hills.
No, but you coast downhill. You can do like 100+ miles. Yeah. You know, on a really good electric bike, you can do it like at least 100 miles. Okay. So I think that's kind of the magic number, because at that point, you know, you're talking about kind of the tolerance for where people can ride. A lot of people can't ride more than 200 or 300 miles straight through, you know. But the KTM and some of the other ones, they're actually working on making swappable batteries. Oh, really? So you can kind of ride somewhere, swap them out, and ride back.
So you mentioned 2 of your cars. What else do you have in your garage?
McLaren P1, which is kind of the crown jewel for me. And then that's the 3 cars in the garage. And then I've got a Mazda CX-9, the new one, as my kind of daily driver. My wife has a Range Rover. That's her kind of daily driver / family car. So we just had a newborn. So we needed something that was, you know, workable for a stroller and, you know, all the baby gear. Because babies have so much stuff. Mm-hmm. It's not just a baby by itself is very portable, but then you got the stroller and the car seat and the bottles.
So which car is the baby mobile?
That's the Range. The Range Rover. That's my wife's car. So, I see. But I have a 911R on the way, and I'm very excited about that.
Very cool. Is your wife a car person?
Oh, she loves cars, yeah. You know, she really likes, I have a Mustang 350R, and she loves that. And to the point that she drives completely erratically and illegally in that, and goes way too fast.
What is it about the women in the Wilson household?
Yeah, she's Brazilian, so she has some of that hot Italian blood. Right. And just loves going fast. So I sent her to racing school. She's been to the Porsche school. She's been to the Ford Mustang school in Utah. Yeah. She's done the Lamborghini winter school. Really? So driving Huracans in the snow. Oh, my. Know what I mean? So she's legit. She's pretty legit.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
That'll score you points. Of all the cars you've had, and you've had a lot, it sounds like.
Yeah, too many.
Is there one car that maybe you say to yourself, man, I wish I could get that back?
Yeah, my turbo, my 993 turbo that I had back in the day. It was a beast. It was an animal. I loved it, and it was super durable. The only downside about it was the guy I sold it to ended up getting hit by another car.
Oh.
So after that, I was kind of like, I don't want it back.
Yeah.
Because I've actually bought a couple of cars back as I was kind of working my way through the baseball system. I'd have to sell a car to get another car, but then eventually I was able to just kind of pile up, and so now I've got I guess probably 12 cars or something like that. I had a Viper, I had the ACR, and I sold that and then used the proceeds from that to get the Mustang. I'm really looking forward to the new Ford GT whenever that comes out. I have a Raptor on the way, so I've gotten more American cars as I've gotten older.
That's pretty wild, though. It sounds like you have so many cars on the way. Of course, you work in the business, so you have access to all
But you
that.
have to some of these cars are so special, you have to order them so far in advance.
Yeah.
Like my Ford GT doesn't come till 2019.
Oh, man.
They're like, hey, congrats, you got one. I'm like, cool, when's it coming in? They're like, 2019. I'm like, sick. All right, we'll see you in 36 months,
Yeah.
So it's kind of funny sometimes because the special edition cars, which are the ones that I tend to like anyways, you have to get them so far in advance that it kind of pollutes the ownership experience a little bit. So you just have to forget that they're coming and then have a couple different cars,
So you may have actually already answered this, because we all have the top 10 cars we want someday.
Yeah.
You probably have answered this, but what is number one on your list?
Well, I can give you all 10 really quick because I think about this all the time. I'm a numbers guy.
All 10.
So number one, McLaren F1. Number two, 275 short nose alloy body Ferrari.
Right.
Number three, the new Ford GT. Number four, an original GT40.
From the 60s?
Yeah, from the 60s.
Oh,
yeah.
wow. Okay.
I had a chance to drive one recently, and it was unbelievable. Number five, I want a Stingray split window.
63.
Yep.
Okay.
I want an old school Porsche Speedster, like a 56 or
Like James Dean's kind of?
He had a 550, but I think like a 356. I would love a 550, but those are like $5 million now. They're crazy money.
Yeah.
I really like the F40, the Ferrari F40. I think that's number 7. Number 8 would be some kind of a wacky ranch truck, just like a Unimog or something preposterous.
Oh, okay.
You can just mow over berms and stuff like that.
Sure.
And then
I've seen Unimogs.
they're awesome.
Supercar Sunday, they've got them in Woodland Hills.
They're huge.
They're huge.
They're preposterous.
Yes.
But I like that. Yeah. I like how preposterous they are.
Yeah.
And then I would say
This is 9.
I would like a 300 SL Mercedes, not the Gullwing, but I like the Roadster.
Oh,
I want the Roadster, right? Because the Gullwing, it's bad airflow. I mean, they're prettier probably, but they're not as functional, and I like driving the cars.
Okay.
And then I'd say number 10, all-time cars. If I could have anything in the world, I would pick man, this is a hard one. Because I've had a bunch of these. I've had a bunch of cars, and some of them I bought them and didn't like them that much. I don't know. I think maybe I'd like a vintage race car. Something like that.
Indy car? Or?
No. Actually, yeah.
11.
Formula car. I'd like a Formula One car. I'd like a vintage Formula One car from the 80s.
Okay. Why the 80s?
Because the 80s were that was when the cars were still really slippery, and they could go really, really fast. They were still kind of dangerous, but they had huge tires.
Okay.
And they also still had an H-pattern gearbox.
Okay.
So once you got into the 90s, 91, 92, they started doing the paddle shift ones.
Right.
And then that's a whole mess because it's harder to get people to rebuild them, and then there's electronics involved. Whereas the 80s ones were very, very basic still in a lot of ways. I mean, they had tunnels and ground effects, and some of them had carbon fiber chassis like the McLarens. But for the most part, they're pretty approachable from a driving perspective. You could, I could get in one and go drive it, and that's one of the things that, for me, everything that I have, everything I've ever wanted is something I can drive.
How big is your garage?
I have a 3-car garage. I have a 3-car warehouse. And then I usually leave the SUVs outside. My dad's a car guy, so I keep one at his house sometimes, and then I keep like one at a dealer, one at the race shop, two at the race shop, something like that.
So you can salt them away all over Orange County, basically.
No, I mean, I have them in Texas, I have them in Arizona, I have them in, I have them everywhere. So I'm gonna, I'll probably have a couple in Northern California, then I'll have some in Southern California, I'll spread them all out. Because if you have them all in one place, then you get kind of used to them and maybe even tired of them, and then you want to get rid of them and get new ones.
Okay.
So for me, even though I sell a lot of cars, that I'll get a car, I'll sell it, because I'm trying to upgrade to a better version of the same one.
Right.
So, I just think that if you have them all in one place, then it's hard because you can't really maintain them all.
Right.
But you can have one somewhere, and then someone can be responsible for that car. Like I have 3 cars in my shop in Austin. I've got a GT3 RS, I've got a project car, and I've got a Nissan Skyline, like an old one. I have a right-hand drive Nissan Skyline, a real Japanese car.
Okay.
So
how hard was that to import?
It's not. I mean, they're like 20 grand for like a really nice one. It's a 1990, so it's not really that fancy. I mean, it's very much a regular car.
And for those who don't know, the Nissan Skyline came out of Japan, and it's almost like trying to
It didn't even come here. We weren't even allowed to have them here until they came out with the 2008.
Right.
So that's the first time that they came to America legitimately as an American car. But the old ones, all the cars from the 90s, they have really nice suspensions. They're nice to drive. They don't beat you up. You can go do miles in them, but it's funny because you're driving on this side of the road and you pull up to a stoplight, and then someone's like looking at you and they're like, what the hell? There's people look over from that side and they're like, wait, there's nobody in the driver's seat. Shifting with your left hand gets a little bit, takes a little bit getting used to, and you always mess up the turn signals and the windshield wipers. It's backwards,
Right.
So.
Right. I have a cousin that has one of those Falcons from Australia.
Yes, those are awesome.
Yeah, they're incredible. And what he does is, it was right-wheel drive. He had one, and he used to take his daughter, and he'd pick up a spare steering wheel.
Yeah.
So she'd be sitting here like this.
So just look like, and people would be like, oh God, get out of the way.
Exactly. So she'd be sitting here like this and waving at people, and it's not connected. The wheel's not connected.
Right.
So she'd be sitting here like this, and he'd be going, hey, how you doing? Great. Oh my God.
Yeah, because he could be like this, steering with his hands down below.
Exactly.
Like,
and
awesome.
nobody's looking at him, even though he has the steering wheel on the driver's side. So that's always kind of fun to watch. So there's all sorts of cars out there that are so different, yet really so fun.
Well, that's why it's so cool to come to the auction, because you see so many people that are passionate about particular cars. You see Chevy guys, Dodge guys, Ferrari guys, truck guys, you know what I mean? There's Shelbys, there's Porsches, there's everything. And so, every time I come to one of these things, I always feel like I learned something, because I see another car that's like a rare car that I wasn't really aware of. I didn't know that particular combination was like one of 40 or one of 30 or whatever. So it's really kind of cool to see that and see some of these guys, because this is the future for me. I'm going to be one of these guys walking around with my grandkids, showing them, Dad used to have one of those, you know what I mean?
So I would be remiss if I did not ask, free agent this season, what's your scenario? How are you doing as far as recovering from the surgery? How many more years you really want to play?
Yeah, baseball is one of those things where you can love it all you want, but it doesn't love you back. And I think, having my 5th arm surgery now has shown me that, professional sports on any level they're brutal on your body. So trying to get the most out of yourself as an athlete is very taxing. And, the one thing that I've always really believed in is that I don't want to play for money as a motivator. I want to play for the love of the game. I want to play to compete. I want to play to contribute to a team. And so I'm still kind of on the process of recovery right now, where I'm getting stronger. I'm starting to get more regular in my workouts, get more on a normal schedule and less on a rehab schedule. But at the same time, once I start throwing again, I think that's when I'll really know, once I start getting off the mound or throwing long toss, how much dust is in here and how much oil is in there. And if I have more oil than dust, then I can keep going and take it on a year-by-year basis. I think I'll end up signing a 1-year contract. I'm at the point now where, because of the success I've had as a player, I can kind of go where I want to go. If I have multiple offers, I don't have to take a job. I can kind of sit around a little bit and just keep getting myself in shape. And the longer I wait, the healthier I'll be. So if I don't sign right away, I know that later in the summer, the teams will still need pitching. It's not like there's lefty pitchers all over the place that have my track record. So ideally, I'd play in a place that fits my criteria for an awesome city, a competitive team. I would really like to try playing in the National League, because I've never really been there full time. and I grew up as a hitter, so I think part of me just can't get rid of that idea, you know.
So have some teams just kept in touch, I guess, considering that's really all they can do at this point?
I mean, well, yeah, they can make offers and stuff, but it wouldn't be prudent for them, because I think some teams really want to see where I'm at. They want to see what what the procedure looked like when they did my shoulder and all that. But I know confidently that my shoulder feels great. It feels way better than it did before surgery, so I know it's just a matter of time before I get back to normal or whatever. That being said, my wife and I had a daughter about 8 months ago, so that's a big factor in the decision, because we want to be able to spend time together. You don't want to just have a baby and then just like, oh, see you in 3 months.
Yeah.
It's not really like the family life that I want for me. And I waited a long time to have kids because I was waiting for the end of my career. So I think if I was an outfielder or maybe a different position, I could probably play till I was in my 40s, so for a long time still, because I'm just a very fit guy and I take care of my body and play really hard and all that. But I think as a pitcher, with the kind of wear and tear I've put myself through, maybe 2 more years, 3 more years max. I don't think I can play. I don't think I can stomach it any more than that.
You got a racing career ahead of you.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the other thing too, is with all the options that I have to drive, and with my own race team and stuff like that, part of me says that as I've built up the car dealership business sort of as a backup plan, or as the post-baseball career, I'm already there. I'm already at that point where I could walk away and just go race and just go sell cars, and that could be my career from now on. And I wouldn't necessarily be upset with that if that happened, because what's not to love about cars? Like, it's not like someone say, hey, you have to go do this job, and it's a job that you don't want. It's a job that I do want, I love, and I really enjoy connecting with people. Someone comes in with a car, they want a car. I really feel that. I know what it's like. I've been in their shoes on any car that they've bought. We grew up having to drive economy cars in my family, and that was what I started with as a salesperson. So, I really do understand all the different aspects of the car business. It is ironic talking about that while we're sitting in a Bentley convertible.
Yeah. Economy cars in Bentley.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, we tried to get a Subaru, and somehow I couldn't find one here.
Subaru convertibles are really rare.
Although there was a Fiat Jolly floating around here. Did you see that?
It's funny because there's always a Fiat Jolly. There's always one. There's always one dude that brings a Fiat Jolly to the auction, and there's always one dude that buys it. It's like the weirdest little car that always sells. Like, they don't ever miss.
Yeah.
They just hit every time. It's great.
C.J. Wilson, free agent for the baseball world, and we'll see where he ends up. Future race car driver. He's already doing it. Thanks for the time, man.
Right.
I appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks to C.J. Wilson of the Angels for joining me right here at the Mecum Auctions in Anaheim, California. And don't forget, you can follow us on social media, listen to us on iTunes, watch us on Facebook and YouTube.